Hey, I think I'm on. Are you on, Brian?
I am definitely on. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode, I am sure, of Fast Charging with B&B. I am Brian.
And I'm Bear.
He says he is, but I don't know if it's true anymore. I just don't know what to believe sometimes. How are you, Bear? Did you have a good week?
I did have a good week, and I'm pretty sure I am Bear. I checked my tag, and it says Bear on it, so I'm good to go on that.
That
How
seems
was
like
your week?
seems like a
In the
reasonable
DR?
assumption. Pretty good. Had my negative COVID test. Got to fly home. Only had a 9-hour layover at JFK, so that's fantastic.
Oh, what a fabulous airport JFK is. It's probably the best of the three in the area. But hey, I bet that was fun. What did you do for 9 hours?
I actually met with my brother,
Oh.
Ted, who I had not seen in 26 years.
26 years?
26
Have you
years.
Talk to him or anything? Or is that
Nope.
just like...
Nope. Different side of the family. I never really knew those people. I have 5 siblings in New York that I have only met a few times.
Okay. I've got 2 brothers from another mother that I rarely see, but I talk to twice a year. Happy birthday and Happy New Year's.
Nice,
And
nice.
occasionally something else, but
Great.
rarely talk to them, but they're down in Florida.
So the news in the chat already is that apparently we sound pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Turn Brian down a little is what I got because I had a feeling you might have been a little bit
Might be a
loud.
little hot.
Oh, well, that's a given.
Yeah.
So let
Yeah.
me see if I could turn you down just a little bit.
I didn't learn the word for clammy in Espanol. I should have. I'm sure they were saying it plenty. I'm sure I'd recognize the word if I heard it.
Yeah, I don't know what clammy is in Espanol, but I'm going to look that up for you, and we'll get back to you on that.
Mucho apreciado. Hey, no news this week, right? We're just visiting, right?
Yeah, nothing going on at all. Stock market was like flat the entire time. Nothing new or exciting. But I'm glad you're back in town to make something happen in the
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was getting pretty lame. We missed you.
Thank you. I missed being
The,
here.
the country wasn't the same.
So did you know that convenience stores want to bring EV charging to rural America?
I heard rumors about that.
I
That's so
think
funny.
it's overdue, and it's a great idea. And this is one of the benefits to vast amounts of competition, is that these things can happen more easily and more effectively. Demand will drive it.
I think it's one of those things where they need to change all that because if they don't, they're not going to be selling fuel anymore. So
Yes.
if they're not selling fuel, what are they going to do? So they need to convert, just like when GM reached out to all the Cadillac dealers and said, you need to start converting over to electric vehicles or you give up your dealership. And a lot of them said, well, we'll give up our dealership. We don't want to convert. But many of them did. You've got to adapt. And if you don't, who's going to go to these places if they don't have gas?
Right.
It's sort of like when I was growing up, we had the little shops on the corner, the little candy stores and things like that. You get a newspaper there, you get a drink, but people aren't going to stop there in all these other places. They're going to drive right past that, and they're going to go to a place that has a charging station.
Right. And in the rural communities, a lot of these, we talked about this before, but a lot of the travel centers have enough land either nearby or already in their possession that they can put in charging.
Yes. I'm sorry, I just read a funny comment.
Uh-oh.
I got a comment that says, turn Brian down a little bit. And JJ said, down to 0.
Oh, JJ, why you play me like that, man? Bad enough the one time I give Nikola all the love, you weren't even there to enjoy it. I gave you a shout out. Aw, man. No, this is good news. This is something that's, in my opinion, a little bit overdue. The benefit is they've had enough time to make sure they're not putting in Chatamo chargers that can only work with, a Nissan Leaf.
Yeah.
And they can, I believe, at this point, make a qualified decision. And in terms of installing chargers, I believe they'll be less expensive than they were before because, economies of scale.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to get cheaper to put them in, and they're going to hopefully we'll get on some sort of standard in the near future, and we can just move forward with one type of charging station. Because I can't imagine having like on a gas powered car having to go to a gas station that would accept like a BMW fuel spout. You
Right.
know, you've got to have this in sync a little bit more
Right.
than they do. And you know, like Tesla, as good as their chargers are, they have adapted in Europe and in China where they use a the different charger.
The CCS2 for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the disadvantage of being the first serious player in a space that was not yet developed is they had to kind of make up their own system. And it's bad enough having different spouts for diesel and unleaded. Let's try and simplify, may we please.
Yes. I think they can do it, but it's just a matter of who's going to win. And we'll have to see how it goes in the future. So
I think there's enough room for everybody to win.
I
Adapters need to
definitely-
be cheaper,
I
that's
think
for
so.
sure.
You know, speaking of the future, I'd like to talk to you about your future subscriber count. I'd like to see it go up.
That'd be
So,
nice.
for the 22 viewers I have on right now, if you have not subscribed to Brian's channel, let's see if we could do that right now. Brian has had some bad luck on these live streams where he seems to lose 1 to 3 or 5 subscribers every time we do a live stream, and it should be going in the other direction.
You
So
would
if you
think.
guys could just hit his subscribe button, there is a link down in my description to his channel, and make him feel good at the end of this live stream when he sees that he gained 50, 100,
That'd be cool.
1,000.
That'd be cool. And for that matter, Bear and I have a friendly competition to see who will get to 20,000 first. And I would love to be the loser in that one. So my fans are permitted to subscribe to Bear. I've got a special promo offer. Use coupon code Brian is better than Bear, and you can subscribe to Bear's Workshop for free.
For free. Wow. Okay.
I'm not gonna charge them. Oh, I
Well, that-
love you guys. Okay.
That's
But
pretty nice of you to make me my own coupon code. I really like that.
the
But-
fun thing is,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say,
I just want to share with everybody
yeah.
that you can subscribe to my channel for free anyway. But go ahead.
I don't know about that. Doesn't sound right. I was
No,
gonna
it's a
point out-
fact check. True.
Oh, I was saying the beauty is, as these as more rural chargers become available, as more chargers everywhere become available, EV adoption will become easier. And
Yes.
let's look at that chart.
Yeah, let's look at that chart because this chart pretty much shows rural areas seem to be a little bit lagging.
Yeah.
And-
And it makes sense. Look at North Dakota. This isn't percent. This is per 1,000 registration, per 1,000 people. So these are tenths of a percent. So if you look at North Dakota at 0.3, that's 0.03%. And I'll tell you why. It's a big empty state. There's nobody there. And so building out a charging infrastructure is difficult and expensive.
Yes, and I know that there are concerns. My stepdaughter lives in North Dakota, and she wants to get a Tesla, but she's concerned about the cold weather. And when I say cold weather, it gets very, very cold there.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking in the negatives on every winter. It's not uncommon. So there's concern with that and whether or not the heat pump, like in the new Model Y, is supposed to alleviate some of that, but how much will it alleviate? And I'll tell you what, a lot of the people in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, they drive pickup trucks.
Yeah.
A large majority of them are going to be driving trucks, things that are related to heavy machinery, oil, because that's what's up there in North Dakota, Montana, is a lot of oil, and everyone's driving big trucks. Now, when the Cybertruck comes out, I think these colors are going to start to change a little bit more because people will say, I've got a use for this here where I can't use a Model 3 in an oil field in North Dakota. And that's what their economy runs on right now is oil. So
Absolutely. And the problem we're going to have is that in Montana, 300 miles is just down the block. It's a big, big state. And if you don't have, and these are not people who go 45 miles an hour.
No.
I don't know if they go 45 miles an hour on their local streets. But on the highways, 80, 90 is common, and you are going to drain a battery in a hot hurry that way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, one time when I was driving up to North Dakota, we were coming up through Colorado and then got into Wyoming, and then there was a road that was closed. And we literally had to drive about 100 miles in to get to the next road that would take us up north through Wyoming and then through Montana into North Dakota.
Wow.
That being said, if you're in a Tesla or any other electric vehicle and you have to make a detour like that, you may not have that option.
Right.
Because you're going to go where the charging stations are telling you to go.
Right.
And that could really put you in a little bit of a pickle.
Absolutely.
You may have to wait until that road is open. And that road wasn't opening. It was closed because of snow. So it was probably going to be closed for the next couple of weeks.
Right.
So there needs to be a decent amount of charging stations so that you can travel through the state.
Yeah.
And that is one reason why I don't know if I would take a Tesla up to North Dakota in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of getting behind schedule. We should probably go on.
Oh, let you keep yapping.
I know. I've just missed speaking English so much.
Yeah, I bet that was happening. So, talk about people not speaking decent English. GM, because they just make up things can't possibly be English. They have a crazy plan to build more EV battery plants, and they're going to spend $6.6 billion in a bid to dethrone Tesla in electric car sales by 2025. So this is 3 years away. They believe that they are going to be able to beat Tesla. You think they got a shot at that?
So, I mean, the obvious answer is no. The longer answer is anything is possible. And I'm excited to watch them try because they are waking up to the reality finally. And, even a year ago, you could have said no one is in a position to catch up with Tesla. Well, Volkswagen sold almost 500,000 EVs last year. That is a very sharp increase rate. That is encouraging. Now, I would say GM is no VW, unfortunately. But it's not impossible, man. It's not impossible. It's just going to be real, real hard. And $6.6 billion, that could be enough to keep them competitive, keep them out of bankruptcy. The real problem they're going to have, Mary, the real problem you're going to have with your leadership, Mary, is making the cars profitable. Because right now, they are not profitable. The Bolt has never been profitable. But I'm sure they're going to, keep making that forever.
All right. So I think some of GM's problems going forward with this is throwing money at a problem is not always the solution. How much does Giga Texas cost? Was it around $2 billion, give or take?
We think it's probably going to be. I think it's probably going to be closer to 4 because the 2 I think was only for phase 1 and they did 3 phases at once. So I think it's closer to 4. But still, 4 includes the battery factory.
That's not just a battery building.
That's the whole place, including a massive battery factory.
Right. So throwing $6.6 billion at battery factories is not necessarily going to fix the problem.
No.
I think that they've got a long way to go. The other, that this is not an issue. Mary's going to lead them straight wherever they go. Mm-hmm. But they're going from 26 cars produced last quarter. 26 cars. And the Silverado's not coming out for at least another year. You've got the Lyric, which is supposed to come out this year, but it's a Cadillac, and it's not going to sell like a Chevy will.
Right.
Cadillac's kind of in a different group. They've got the Bolt, which they may or may not restart up, and that kind of brings us to our next article.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the end of the Bolt? The factories that they're going to put that $6.6 billion into is the factory where the Bolt is being made. So how does the Bolt continue if these are going to be turned into battery plants?
Yeah.
This article here states that the Bolt was sold at a loss of $9,000 each one of them. It was just they were just trying to show people that they can lead, but you're not leading if you're selling at a loss, because you do that forever.
Right.
So,
And it forces you to limit sales and forces you to restrict adoption. It's yeah, and the more you sell, the more you lose. We lose money on each one, but boy, do we make up for it in volume.
yeah, that is not a way to lead
No.
at all, and I just don't think that is going to work out for them. Now they have the Equinox EV, which is going to start around $30,000, but we don't know when. Also, that's if it's not out yet, then you really can't count on it for sales. But in order to beat Tesla by 2025, they're probably going to be producing 3-4 million cars a year by 2025. So they're going to have to. They're at 26 last quarter. Let's see, 26, 52. That's 104 EVs a year
Right.
at the current rate that they're at.
Right.
I know that they got the Hummer also, but that's also going to be a limited production. So they've got a long way to go.
Right. And they're not planning to make just 100. But the benefit I see to this story is that batteries are going to be more of a bottleneck than production. Both can be a constraint, but the batteries are, the line in the sand.
Yes.
And by the way, that chart we looked at earlier includes plug-in hybrids, I believe.
Does it really?
I think it
why do they
does.
keep counting those? I just went back to it.
It doesn't say there, but I think I saw in the notes that it did.
Well, it says electric vehicle registrations per 1,000 people. Now, I know in Arizona, if you get a hybrid car, they don't count that as an electric vehicle. They don't give you an electric vehicle plate. You just get a standard plate. I don't know if that's how they count it, but it is registrations.
Well, in
And
either
I don't-
case, the good news is that the market has incredible room for growth. Because,
Oh, yeah.
This California at 10 can expand to 1,000. 1,000 is the ceiling. Because that's not 10%. That's 10 per 1,000. That's 1%.
My chat window just updated, and I hadn't gotten anything in who knows how long.
Well, that's funny.
So,
Well, you got a
Yeah.
super chat from JJ.
yeah, I see that. I thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. And
What's it say?
Oh, he says, you know what it says. It's sub to Brian. You really weren't sub to Brian already?
Oh, no,
That
he
is-
was. He's telling everyone else to.
Oh,
Well, I'm sure
okay.
he's subbed. Because
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
me and JJ have this season-long arc of a will they, won't they with Nikola.
Yeah.
So-
And Brian and I are contemplating looking at an article maybe next week on hydrogen and electrolyzers, and seeing if maybe we could collaborate on something like that, and maybe give you guys some things that we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I started researching it a couple weeks back, and Bear has found some other things that are more recent and potentially more interesting. We will get to that. Not today.
Yes.
So
Not today.
The third thing we wanted to talk about on GM to dealers, no Silverado EV dealer markups or you'll lose your allocation of units. Because
think
they've
that's
seen
fantastic.
the shenanigans being pulled by Ford. And I imagine they've seen some early shenanigans being pulled by their dealers. And part of it is they want to, I'm sure, increase the customer's satisfaction. But part of it is, if somebody's going to be making money, it should probably be us.
Yeah.
Because especially if GM, like on the Bolt, they were losing 9,000 a car, and still the dealers would sell them for whatever last penny they could possibly get.
You know what? This is a follow-up to Ford had already sent this letter out. See, the thing is, the dealer's already paying a fixed price to Ford and to Chevy, for the vehicle, and then what they're selling it above it is going to be profit for them. So it doesn't help Chevy or GM, Ford, if they put on that ADM, the additional dealer markup. It's no benefit to the manufacturers, except
Yeah.
you've got the problem of it makes them look like crap. It's the dealer that's doing it, but everyone looks at Chevy and go, oh my God, Chevrolet charged me an extra $5,000, or they tried to charge $5,000. It looks
Right.
bad on them, and it's a horrible thing to do. I've always seen these ADMs on cars, and I've thought that they were ridiculous. I've seen crazy ones anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 on a car just because it might be rare,
Right.
but it's still going to depreciate the same way as if there was no ADM on it.
I saw a Mustang Cobra at a dealership once, and I want to say it had like a $30,000 or $40,000 markup on it. And I went back there months later because I lived in a town where that was where you got your tabs. It was one of the places, and it just sat there forever.
Yeah.
But
It, Ridiculousness, and that's why I am not a fan of dealerships. One of the many reasons why I'm not. They're not there for the best interest of the consumer. They are there to line their pockets.
completely agree. Completely agree. We're doing pretty good on time. I think I had some comments last week that suggested we should kind of hold off on our questions kind of until the end, so that on replay we get so that people who come in later can enjoy more of the show and less of the stammering.
Ah, who's stammering?
Typically me.
I don't know what that means.
Did I stutter? Not that time. The other time. Did you know Volvo Electric successfully completes green truck route test?
Yes, I saw that.
Fully
So
loaded,
that-
200 miles at 50, that's not a real test.
That is not a real test, because who drives 213 miles at 50 miles per hour?
No.
I'm not sure where they're trying to go. So it was good to see this. Looks like a cab over design. Can't be 100% sure, but it looks like one.
Looks like it to me.
Yeah. You just never know if it actually lifts up. I didn't see anything in the article that said that it did. But if this is Volvo's response to getting an electric truck, they're missing it a little bit. Again, we keep doing articles on these manufacturers are missing it, and I think I've set expectations a little bit higher, being a Tesla follower and seeing what they've done, and it seems like every other manufacturer just seems to be a little bit behind. I'm not trying to toot Nikola's horn, but their numbers are better than that, and they're a startup. So I think Volvo, with all of their experience, should be able to do something better than this. And so should Winnebago, but we'll talk about that later.
I think for a first effort, it's fine. There are a lot of use cases that this will fit. And it even starts by saying it's for city-to-city transit, not necessarily highway. In Europe, 200 miles might be plenty adequate for what they're doing to get from, the port to... there's a lot of cities within 200 miles of a port. And as batteries improve and the price improves, the range will only improve.
Yes, I can agree with that, but at the same time, if the range is 213 miles at 50 miles per hour,
What is it really?
yeah, what is it really at with a real world test? 50 miles per hour is probably the sweet spot that I find when driving the car. If I was to drive my Model Y at 50 miles per hour and drive that up to Vegas, I probably get 400 to 500 miles in range. I'm not kidding. That is the sweet spot. The mountains would probably kill that, but that is really a sweet spot, and it's a sweet spot for fuel economy also.
Yeah.
It's around 50 miles per hour. That's when you're going to get the best gas mileage. So
The drag really picks up after 50. It really starts picking up after about 40, but at 70, 80, the drag is outrageous.
Yeah. So what is the range really, and what happens if you are driving around and the driver does go up to 60 for a couple minutes?
Yeah.
How much is that going to pull that down? And is that going to put you in a odd situation where you need a tow? And the battery options are from 180 kilowatts to 540, which is kind of small for a semi when you think about 180 kilowatts. That's not a lot. So,
But it
you got
speaks to efficiency in
pulling
a
a
way
light
that
load.
I think is, yeah.
Yeah,
The-
it would also be nice to see the cost.
Yes. And I
But
think that's the reason the battery's so small. I think it's good for companies like Volvo and Nikola and everybody to not let perfect be the enemy of good. And if you're going to wait to make a perfect truck that's the perfect solution for everyone, you may not survive long enough to make it.
well, that is a good point. But speaking of perfect trucks, why is Nikola tanking this week?
So
I know that wasn't a good segue, but
that
I
was
had to go
fine.
with it.
So we're not going to cover this in depth because there's not any depth to cover. Why is Nikola
Right.
stock tanking this week? Why is every stock tanking this week? Why is Netflix tanking this week? I'll tell you why Netflix is tanking, because hydrogen's a dead end. No, it's just
Netflix is tanking because their earnings were crap.
well, they upped their
and-
price again, which is insanity.
Yeah.
I don't I don't need another 500 shows from France. I need like
So kind of interesting.
well now
But-
now that we've watched Squid Game and a few others, everything we get's Korean, but the answer to why Nikola stock is tanking is because the market is tanking. There's uncertainty about quantitative tightening. There's uncertainty about inflation. There's uncertainty about Russia's incursion into the Ukraine. There's a lot of uncertainty, and the market doesn't like that, and it's resulted in a bit of a sell-off. Crypto is down. So,
Oh boy.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
if
and-
your horizon is sufficiently short that looking at 1 week is going to make you panic, you should probably just get in a mutual fund.
That is correct. Let someone else do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any haters on Tesla talking about how Tesla stock was down? Because I had all the haters just came out of their holes on our Nikola flyovers, just talking about how the end of the world is right around the corner for Nikola, and I don't comment on them, but it's like, hey guys, come on, this is happening across the board.
Right.
So hopefully it doesn't continue and it doesn't turn into what turns into a big crash.
So
But
I
think,
haven't, if that surprised you, but I go kind of out of my way to not. I'm having speed issues. I go out of my way to not discuss stock prices much because it's not in my wheelhouse, and I don't pretend to have expertise in that area. And if anyone asks me for financial advice, I tell them I don't look at horizons less than 5 to 10 years. I'm not a trader, I'm an investor. And if your horizon is shorter than 5 to 10 years, my advice is not going to be helpful for you. I have a pretty good barometer of where a company should be in 5 to 10 years, not so much on where the market thinks it will be in 3 months. Because the market can be very irrational.
Oh yes. I mean, look at what Rivian got up to. That was irrational as far as the value of that
Rivian?
stock.
Oh.
Yeah, when it first came out in the IPO.
Yeah. I knew a guy who made some money on that.
Yeah, yeah. I heard about him. So Brian, I have a placeholder when I'm flipping between screens, and I just put up a random bear each week now. And Octavio says, "Bear, can you remove that bear from your screen? We've had enough this week of a bear market."
Oh.
So, I know. I wish it was Bull's Workshop. It would be a lot more positive. But I'm just trying to throw people for a loop. They think I'm going to be negative.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but let's talk about something positive. And who now produces the most cars in North America?
So there's this little company out of, I want to say California, called Tesla. Am I saying that right? The Numi
I think it's
factory.
with a hard S.
He says it in between. It's like Tesla. So I alternate to upset everyone. It is the largest factory currently in operation in the U.S., so it shouldn't be too big of a surprise that it is the most productive auto factory in America. Now, it is a little surprising because they make so many of their components in-house. So a lot of their floor space is consumed for things like making seats, which other tier one provider, which other OEMs don't do. And they make their motors, but I think they might be making those in Nevada. Yeah, it made more cars per week than anybody, more than BMW, more than Toyota, more than Ford. And part of it is because those factories are off their peaks, and part of it is because Tesla has just hit a new peak. But we don't know what Tesla's actual capacity is at Fremont. It's higher than what it is now.
They seem to have a new peak all the time. So as much as we want to call it a peak, this is probably just still going up the roller coaster that hopefully doesn't go down.
Yeah.
But it is a hodgepodge of a factory when you look at it by air. As far as the layout and any flyovers, there seems to be dozens of buildings that have been attached to each other. It's like the Winchester House of factories. And it looks like over time, GM and Toyota just kept expanding on it. But then when you look at other factory layouts, they all seem to be kind of like that.
Yes.
And
Tesla is a bit unique in that regard.
Yeah, Giga Texas was designed for workflow and to keep everything in line so that everything produces a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. And I think that Tesla has really kind of nailed it, being that they're this company that a lot of people really didn't think that they'd make it. They now have a factory that produces more cars than any other car manufacturer. And you know what? It doesn't matter that there's a slump, because the fact is everyone gets hit by a slump, and they found a way to get past that slump.
Yeah.
Because of supplier issues.
And this is their least efficient factory. Shanghai is larger and will certainly outproduce Fremont this year. And the thing I like to point out with the workflow is, let's say you can save $33 a car in workflow. I think by arranging your factory a little smarter, you can do that. Well, if you're making 1 million cars a year, that's 33 million. Over 10 years, that's $350 million you're saving just by having a workflow improved by $33 a car.
Yes. I got a comment here from Intimidator. He said Ford assembled 1.7 million vehicles in the U.S. in 2020. Yes, they did, but the point is that this is just one factory is now producing more cars than any other individual factory. It's not the total car count. We understand that, but it's still an accomplishment.
Yeah, and Ford has factories in several different states making all kinds of different products. They make the F-150 in more than one plant. They make it in 2 or 3, as I recall.
Well, I know about Dearborn.
Well, I think they also make it.
Is it in Kentucky? Kentucky also?
Nope, that's Toyota. Let's see. Oh, no, you're saying Dearborn. Yeah, I'm not sure. But they have more than one F-150 factory. So, yeah,
and
it's a big deal.
Yeah, and off subject real quick, JJ believes that I should change my name to Bull's Workshop, and you, Brian, should change it to My Nikola Weekend.
I think that's something we were going to discuss around the end of March, as I recall.
Yeah, but why don't we readdress that at a later time?
Well, I meant just in advance of that 1st of April, when we reconsider the important things in life.
As long as we can change it back.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do a hard change. I actually asked my fans if I should change the name from My Tesla Weekend when I stopped doing just on weekends, and they're like, it's fine.
Well, you can spread out by going with My EV Weekend.
Well, I was going to do My Tech Weekly, because when you put Tesla in the name of your channel, a lot of folks won't come on as guests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I took it out of mine. That's exactly the reason.
Yeah.
So, because I was so famous.
Alex said that Ford closed their F-150 plant in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. All right. And the Intimidator said Ford likes to use 20 different factories and ship parts all over the place. LOL. Yeah, that doesn't really seem to make sense anymore, does it?
Yeah.
It must have at some point.
Well, it keeps you. That's how you buy congressmen, is by keeping plants in as many districts as possible.
Yeah, I suppose that
That's
is a
why
way
the
to buy.
F-35 is built in like 42 states, from parts from 42 states. Makes it unkillable.
Yeah, I saw at for Texas. I don't know if it was Joe or Jeff were showing in videos the the pieces of equipment that they take the grains of plastic and they melt it down, and then they put it in. It goes through the mold machine where they make the plastic parts right there. That's. Are you pretending? Oh, I thought you were pretending to
Nope.
be frozen again. I'm trying not to look at you because I know at some point you're going to do that.
I'm not going to do that today.
No, not today. That's not frozen. That's how you always look.
That's my resting face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got them.
Right, right.
They do the plastics right on site. They do. And did you notice on a video? I don't know if Brian Rashetsky's still in here. There were springs. There were coils in the dumpsters, suggesting they might be making their own suspension.
I think that they're trying to make as much as they can because
Yeah.
at that point, all you need is the raw material,
Yeah.
and go from there. You don't have to worry about a vendor. Could you imagine being that vendor who has to go? They're not going to make their targeted deliveries to Tesla, and they got to make that phone call. Hey, we're going to be a little bit late. So you think you could just halt your production line for a couple of weeks? How do you think that would go over?
My goodness, that would. I assume Tesla would put something in the contract about late deliveries that would incentivize them to not do that. At least that's my suspicion based on how little downtime the factories have had compared to the competition.
Yeah, yeah, and you know that a company like Tesla have redundancy built into the equipment to, like, say, make the plastics. They're gonna have the redundancy in the equipment. They're gonna have redundancy in the training of the people who do it, and they're gonna have redundancy of suppliers. So if one of the suppliers of the raw pellets, you can't bring them in, they're gonna have someone else that's gonna be bringing in, or they'll have multiple at the same time, and that it just alleviates a lot of problems where you just, okay, that plastic part for that seat's not coming in for 2 weeks, and now we're shutting everything down.
Right. Right. They've had very, very little downtime. MD Hofsty says F-150s are made in Dearborn and Kansas City. No word on whether
Okay.
that's in Missouri or Kansas, but
Yeah, that's like the most confusing thing ever. I'd like to talk to the people who named Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, because that just
have you ever been?
always throws me. I passed through it.
It's one city. It just straddles the state line.
Yeah, but why is it got to be like that?
Because
They
the city was named before the state lines were drawn.
Maybe they need to redraw the state lines just so that I don't have problems with this.
I
Is
will
that too-
I will make some phone calls.
Okay, look, we'll talk about it next week.
We're doing good on time, but I still feel like we should move on to this not super exciting story. Koenigsegg, who is they make the most amazing car. Yes, the Swedish hypercar company is making aftermarket parts for Tesla. They're not.
I thought it was kind of neat, but
think it's
also I threw up in my mouth when I saw the price.
Oh, not familiar with Koenigsegg, huh? Yeah, it's mostly.
I am, but still.
Yeah, it's mostly body kit and spoiler and all that stuff, but it's pretty, and it's
Yeah.
boy, it's gonna be.
I'm looking at the second picture and I could barely figure out what I'm looking at.
Is it an
But
active spoiler?
It's like a whole bunch of carbon fiber parts.
Right.
like,
Well, I
thrown
think it's an
together.
active spoiler that pops up for braking.
No, it's not. It's like 6 different spoilers all in a pile.
Oh, I see.
There is one really good thing about this that I found further down in the article is that you do get a sticker that comes with each part. So I know there's value to that, but
Yeah.
there is a sticker.
Yeah, that's valuable.
So I'm just saying. JJ just gave me a super chat and it says breaking Nikola news, but then he,
Kind of trailed off.
yeah. Let's see. Scott says Nikola just posted, well, this just happened. 2 of our Nikola fuel cell alphas took their first road trip from Arizona to California on a single fill with plenty of hydrogen to spare once they reach their destination.
Neat.
So look at that. That's a decent amount of miles right there.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. That's quite a distance. And the thing there is, if you can do that, that means you don't need as much fueling infrastructure, which is going to reduce one of your biggest obstacles.
Yes, that's an infrastructure fixer right
Well,
there.
like we were saying with Montana, if your EV had 1,000 miles of range, Montana's already ready to go for EVs. It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't have 1,000 miles of range. So.
And JJ says Americans want EVs to have 500 miles of range. I agree with that. 1,000.
So
I'm just being greedy.
JJ, I would say that if it's stated capacity of 500 miles, then absolutely, because real world, especially if you're charging 20 to 80% and going 70 instead of 50, that's going to put you at like 380 miles of actual range, and I think that would be a real sweet spot. I don't think we're going to see it right away because batteries are in short supply, and if your battery is 25% bigger, that's 25% fewer cars you can make. And I think all the companies are going to struggle with that for a while.
Yeah, and JJ went ahead and said the Miria has 800 miles of range. There's still no infrastructure for it, JJ.
Yeah.
Now, what's your thoughts on this? The Model Ys were supposed to be produced at Texas several months ago. They were supposed to start in October. And now here we are reaching the end of January, and we're probably going to find out something tomorrow. So that's why this is relevant right now. Do you think they're going to start producing those Model Ys with 4680s?
100%.
And
100%.
just skip the 2170s, go straight to the 4680s. And if they go to the 4680s, what do you think are they going to do? Is it going to be just more range with the same size battery pack, or a smaller battery pack that costs less and gets the same range? What do you think? Because this could lead us towards the 500-mile range, which I want, because I don't like to have to watch my speed when I'm driving back and forth on one of my vacations, because I do have to monitor my speed. I can speed for half the trip, and then I gotta go to the speed limit like for the rest of my destination.
Sure.
That annoys me.
So the first answer is, will it be 4680s? And the answer is absolutely yes, because the completed husks we've seen discarded and the ones brought in for configuring the paint shop do not have a floor pan, which means they will have the structural battery pack. And we've never heard anything about a structural 2170 pack. It's going to be 4680s. We've also heard that they've been stockpiling them at Cato Road, which would allow them to begin production with that. And it should support the ramp until the 4680 line in Austin is done. So what will they use them for? I believe the first generation will be just performance. Just long range, because we've already seen dozens of long range cars that have been made in Texas outside charging. And we only noticed them because it was Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, and there were no employees there, and we could see none of those cars have plates. None of them have the front windows tinted.
How do you know they were long range?
Because of the wheels. Because they didn't have performance tires. And they didn't have performance calipers.
Okay. Yeah, and they also would have been lower to the ground and a spoiler.
Yep. So
okay.
I think they're going to be long range, but I don't think they're going to be extra long range. I think with the 4680s, you could make a Model Y XLR. It's entirely possible that will be built in anyway and something you can unlock later for an additional price. But if you don't, it just prolongs the life of your battery, because you can go 0 to 100% and it still be an actual 20 to 80%. So that was like an advantage of the medium range Teslas, is you could charge them to 100 without damaging the battery, because there was no medium range Tesla. It was a long range with a software limitation. So if there's going to be an extra long range version, I don't think we'll hear about it for at least 6 months. I think they will either use a smaller pack or a larger pack that's artificially limited that can be uncorked for a price later on.
Yeah, I think we'll hear about it tomorrow.
I hope so. I'm excited for tomorrow's call. I will be live streaming that. Bear, you should come and hang out in the chat and And I should point out also, last time the earnings call happened, I was the only streamer who was able to keep the audio levels balanced. All the other channels just kept it quiet because they couldn't figure out how to use their gosh darn studio.
Well, you are skilled in that way, unlike me, who constantly has audio issues. Tomorrow
Brian
I have
Rashetsky is saying that he believes there could be a Plaid Model Y. And I believe that's absolutely going to happen. Not today. Soon, not today.
You think that the four-motor Cybertruck is going to be basically...
Your audio cut out on me. Do I think the four-motor Cybertruck will be what?
a Plaid?
Boy.
You still got me?
I got
No?
you. I'm thinking. I don't know. I don't know if they even need the naming convention for that.
Yeah, but if they have that naming convention, then they could go $120,000 on the truck, which would upset me more than anything because then there's no tri-motor available and the price would go up $50,000.
Right. There's good markup on those top-end vehicles. That's a faux show.
Yeah. JKM did ask me if I loaded up in the 7s or did you get the 6s like you wanted regarding the Nikola stock today. Low 7s was where I was able to get it at. Just that, because we were talking about that yesterday. So just wanted to answer that question. And Intimidator asking about the 4680s. And no, we have no verification of what we just said.
No, that is correct. Yeah, I just popped over and looked at it, and yeah, some people got some deals today. A few people managed to get in under $7. Wow.
All right. Well,
Elon stated that anything under more than 250 to 300 would be a good EV. I agree with that, but I would argue that I would modify that to say in real-world driving conditions, not in EPA-rated sticker range.
100% agree with that. Because 250 to 300 minus your 80% or your 20% that you can't
Buffer.
charge, and now you're even less. And then you want to take it for a long drive and you want to go 70 miles per hour, you're now much lower. So yeah, it's got it. 250 to 300 is still not good.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is really holding back EVs is range anxiety. How do you get rid of that? Just add more range.
Yeah.
And it'll be a worthwhile investment and give people options. You can pay this for extended range, or you can pay this for a regular range. People will buy what they're comfortable with. Maybe they'll buy one and they got too much range, and next time they realize, well, it's just like buying your phone and getting too much space. The next time you buy a phone, you go, well, I didn't use it last time, so I'm gonna get the cheaper phone next time. It's probably the way to do it.
I don't think anyone gets a car and says it has too much range. I think my parents built a garage that was like 2,000 square feet. And I asked the contractor, don't you think that's a little big? And he said, in 30 years of building garages, no one has ever come back and said, I wish my garage was smaller. With that, I think we should skip over the next one and go straight to the one about range.
Sure. That was our Lucid one, wasn't it?
Watch record-setting Lucid Air Dream Edition 70 mile per hour range test. So they went 70, which is real, and boy did it deliver.
Yep. And that is a real range test as opposed to the 50 that we saw in
Right.
the Volvo earlier.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting. There is a lot of good reviews coming out of Lucid, and it took a while for them to come out. And this was a Lucid Air owned car, so that is something to keep in mind. And because you never know, Warren's got to have something to complain about.
It's not wrong. I mean, if it is the company's car, they could adjust the cork in such a way that it's harmful to the battery for short-term results. But, and I have also seen some horror stories of early model problems with like the computer having problems. It's a brand new car. That's going to happen. Expect that. That will be ironed out. But the good news is it worked. It it did the trick. So for now, at least, it looks like Lucid might be the real deal.
Yes, it definitely looks like it. I know the one complaint that I saw about this was that they aired the tires up to 49, which is recommended, and that's ridiculous. It's a heavy car. You're supposed to have higher tire pressure on cars that weigh more, or vehicles. My F350 was recommended tire pressure was 60 to 80, depending on what you were towing. And it's a heavier vehicle. It's 9,000 pounds, so it requires
Is it
more
9?
air.
It's not 9,000. Is it really? It's
Uh,
not 9.
Is it?
It's
Yeah,
heavy.
it could be.
It's heavy, but it.
Yeah, it's heavy. Now you're gonna make me look.
Yeah,
Thought it
look
was
that up
9,000
because that's
pounds.
crazy. Lucid Air, MSR.
No,
oh,
the F350 was
Right.
9,000.
come on. Man.
Okay, the
Good.
F350 is showing a max weight of
So
7736.
52, yeah,
Right.
5,200 to 50. Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I'm encouraged. And if
Yeah,
they're
it
and
is
if
very encouraging.
and no discredit to Warren, but if they're faking this, it's a dumb thing to do because a customer-owned car will be tested in the same way any day.
Yeah.
And if it's wildly different than this test, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Digital
And
Blade Canada says, I think the Hummer is 9,000.
Okay, maybe that's where I got that number from. Or maybe I'm getting that. You know what? I've got a GMC that's 1,000 pounds. It's a dump truck, so a little confusion on that. And that always goes through my head because when I would go to the dump, you look at your weight when you're pulling in, and it would say 9,000 pounds.
Sure.
So I think that's where I'm getting that from.
So a question I
so-
have for you, Bear, is what is an example of like a big, heavy EV that's coming out? Got anything in the camper space, maybe?
Yeah, there is something. And by the way, before we get off that, at the bottom of that article with Lucid, there is the range, the inside EV range testing that they've
Yeah.
done, and the Model 3 was sitting at 310, so there's a big difference between
Yeah.
the highest Tesla one and the Lucid Air, and that can change tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm serious, it can change tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to see what comes out of Texas. So, Winnebago. We talked about this last week, or I think it was last week. The Winnebago was going to announce their ERV, electric recreational vehicle. And as an RV enthusiast and owner, I'm going to say that this disappoints more than I thought it was going to, because what they had shown last time was a full-size Class A that got about 125 miles of range. This is a Class B that gets about 125 miles of range. So with a couple of years going by, not much in the way of an improvement. I can tell you that looking at the pictures of the inside of this, it's quite nice. I'm bringing it up on my screen. And that's a decent Class B. Something like that in a gas version will, not her, I don't know why that picture just got on there. Not bad, Brian, just part of the ad. Not something that I shouldn't be looking at. So a Class B, like that, configured like that, with the extended wheelbase, with the high roof, is going to cost, brand new in a Ford Transit body chassis, is going to be around $120,000, something like that. So in a gas engine, that's $120,000. Now we're throwing in a tiny little battery, and they're going to charge out the wazoo for that. I've always had problems with Class Bs with their prices being a little bit higher than I would ever want to spend. But this is going to be out of reach of most people. I think most Class Bs are already. But I don't think that this is... I hope they do not try and sell this, because this is this better stay a concept because they really need to improve on this. Putting an 86 kilowatt battery into something that is almost always long range. And for some reason, Winnebago thinks that 54% of new RV buyers prefer to make trips under 200 miles.
So, yeah, well, that's so dumb because, first of all, when they say under 200, they mean 199. They mean 185. They do not mean 121. 121, that's like 90 minutes of driving, man.
Oh, I got to correct you. 125. Don't try and take those 4 miles from them. But that's not
but
even
then
the point.
You're rolling in with at 0. You can't do that. That's reckless.
That's 100% correct. Again, man, you're nailing it today.
I tell you.
So I talk to a lot of people who RV, but they're renters. And because I rent out several RVs, I always ask them where they're going. I ask them if they're dry camping or if they're camping at a campsite. A lot of people I find are dry camping. Now, if you're dry camping, you're going to a place that's out in the woods with 0 facilities. If you want to turn on the air conditioner in a unit like this, you would run it off a generator. This is not going to have a generator. It's going to have the electric batteries that are already in there, so you'll be draining them. But you'll have no place to plug in either. You cannot plug this in anywhere when you're dry camping. So that's out. Now, campsites don't always have plug-ins. So you can't even plug in at every campsite.
Right.
But you have to be able to get to your wherever you're camping and be able to come back. And is it 50% of the time that people say that they're dry camping? Yeah, I'm probably going to say it is 50% of the time, but I'm also going to tell you that it's more than 50% of the time that they're driving more than 125 miles.
Sure.
125 miles, you can still see the lights of the Phoenix area. You've got to go further than that.
Well, and also cut it in half because you got to come back.
Yeah, you got to come back.
So 60 miles. 60 miles. You're barely out of Phoenix.
Yeah. Even if you were going to a campsite that has a plug, it's still not going to be 125 miles of range is not going to be far enough. Not at all. So hope this concept keeps going, but it looks like they've gotten the same thing that they had 2 years ago, and this is not a good update. I would love to see something better than that.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen is they need to stop trying to develop their own because they clearly don't understand the market or the tech, and they need to wait for a Rivian delivery van to come out that they can just use, or a Mercedes with adequate range, some kind of Sprinter van with adequate range, and just hermit crab into that and call that good enough, because this is not serious.
Well, you know why it's not serious? The whole thing is built on the electric Ford Transit platform, which is made by Lightning E-Motors, which makes the Ford Transit E-Transit, which is their electric version, which has 125 miles. So all they did was buy one of these vans from Ford that was already electrified, convert it over from an empty chassis to a Class B. They didn't really do anything on this.
And then they weighed it down and added a bunch of things that drained the battery and said it still has 125 when it can't.
It can't. But they used all LED lights. That's probably what they're.
That's my package. Correction, my mistake. I misunderstood. I mean, yeah. So why don't we cover that one we skipped real quick? This kind of EV tangential. Apple's self-driving car project hits another speed bump as engineering manager departs. So I've got a video I'm working on. I've scripted most of it that I may produce this week about why why self-driving cars are so darn difficult. And every company goes through the same cycle. They get quickly to 90% and this is going to be easy. And then they get to 99%. They're like, oh, we got this in the bag. And then it just gets impossibly harder from there to close the gap on that last 1%, tenth of a percent, hundredth of a percent. And Apple is now discovering the same thing that Waymo discovered, the same thing that Tesla discovered, the same thing that all of them have discovered, is that it's a Herculean task that is just about impossible. And so far is impossible.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they really are invested in this as much as they need to be. I'm sure they have a lot of people working on this,
Hmm.
but is this really where they think the money is in the future for them? Because they're doing pretty good.
If
So
they're whoever is first to market with level 4 or 5 will add $1 trillion to their market cap over maybe overnight, but definitely over a year.
yeah, but they're not close.
I have
It's a,
we don't know where they're at. I assume they're nowhere close. Otherwise, we'd
yeah,
know about it.
I'm assuming that too. So it is something that's going to be wait and see. There's the lucid people are saying, oh, and maybe they need something like that, or maybe they need to just go with merge with someone who has some technology where they put it together, and maybe you're going to have more bits when you're left over, and progress a little bit further than you would if you keep trying to go alone.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of chats. If you want to get a few chats in, I can go a few more minutes, but I can't go forever because today is my dog's follow-up diabetes test. Did I tell you, Bear, what they give to dogs who have dog diabetes?
Oh God, this is going to be a bad joke.
No. Human insulin.
Oh, I really thought it was going to be a bad joke. Okay.
How much did I spend on insulin last month?
I don't know. You're in Dominican Republic. You probably get a lot.
No, you got to refrigerate it. You can't bring it back. No,
Oh,
we spent $170 on our dog's diabetes medication for 1 month.
there's places online that you can get it, and they'll send it in like freeze pack things.
Oh,
Just saying.
I will 100% check that out because this is it's
I get
painful.
my animal medication online. The deworming shots and the puppy shots, not the deworming shots, but the puppy shots and the rabies shot. And you can get them online, and they'll freeze pack it and send it to you when you get it's nice and cold. So.
So looking at I'm going to start at the bottom with the comments just because. Let's see. Can Tesla enter India by 2100? Yes. Boy, insulin in Canada is 29 Canadian for 10 milliliters. Wow, that's fantastic. Take care of the puppy. Yeah, she's a good girl. She's gotten a lot nicer as she's aged.
Can you go up to Canada and get medicine?
It's prohibitively far from here because I'm almost in
Okay.
Portland, so it's like 5 hours each way.
Okay.
But if you have a prescription, you're allowed to bring back, I think, definitely
have
ask you a lot
numerous
of
times.
questions, but I've heard horror
Yeah.
stories about it, but I've never seen it.
I haven't had horror stories, but I've been searched numerous times. One time coming back from Canada into the United States, and then all the time in Mexico. They stop you all the time because I'll be smuggling things into Mexico. I
Yeah.
got a comment from Scott. Problem with self-driving cars, they'll drive the speed limit, and most people will not be okay with that. Well, Scott, you're probably right about that. I know on Autopilot you set the the cruise speed to, I believe, up to 90 miles per hour, probably 89. I think once you hit 90, my car mad at me. You can't have autopilot until you start the car, because you're being punished for driving too fast with autopilot. Now, what would full self-driving do? That is a problem, and that's not something I want to get stuck behind, because autopilot just a 2-lane road will not let you go more than 5 over. Once you get onto a 4-lane road, it will let you go up to 90. But when I'm on a 2-lane road and it's 65 miles per hour and I'm stuck at 70, I don't use autopilot, because now it's kind of defeated the purpose. I've got people coming up behind me, getting ready to pass me because I'm driving like grandma. Uh,
Well, I know that.
JJ,
Oh, just real quick on that. FSD is a lot more can be a lot more aggressive, and it has settings. I did have a chance to ride in an FSD beta vehicle, and one of the settings, Mad Max, makes it drive very aggressively, like darting in between cars. And they do that because in a lot of cities, think New York, think LA, if you don't drive that way, you don't drive. So I'm just like with how autopilot can be set over the speed limit, FSD will not be locked at 60 miles an hour or 65 or whatever your speed limit is, because that's not how humans drive. I believe that's a concern that is already addressed, or certainly would be.
Another point of note on that is that the vision system needs to be improved a little bit. There is a stretch of highway between Gila Bend, Arizona, and a town called Ajo, and I believe it is Route 65 or 85, and it goes north to south. When my car is driving down that road, it sees the state route 85, and it thinks it sees 35. and it lowers the autopilot. So I can't use autopilot between Gila Bend and Ajo, which is a stretch of, 60 to 100 miles, I forget. And it took me 3 or 4 trips going through there before I'm like, why the hell is the car just suddenly 35? And then one time I actually caught it. I was passing the sign, and it would only happen in that area. It would happen all the time. And I know it doesn't read the maps for the speed limit, it reads the signs. And one time I actually caught it where I'm cruising along at 65, and then all of a sudden it goes down to 35, and I just noticed that I was passing the sign. It read the sign, and it's clear as day. It says 85 on it. And it just brings me down to 35. And I'm like, okay.
That's pretty funny.
I got that, but that's going to be a problem for FSD because you don't want to be going down an interstate. I don't know if there's an I-85 in but having your speed dropped while you're going down there is going to be an issue. So there's still some tweaking that they need to get to. So
Sure.
Just saying.
I did get a note from Paul saying, get insulin at Costco. It's the cheapest. Paul, would you believe I'm an hour from the nearest Costco? Yeah. It's that's the only thing this smallish city is missing is a wholesale club.
Do you know that Costco has guidelines for how much the demographics, and the part of the demographics is the average household income has to be over $100,000 a year before they would put one in that city. Plus, it has to be certain other factors like how far they are from. I found that out because my town put out for one, and they had released what the demographic requirements were, and they are starting construction on our Costco probably within the next month or so. But they've got the sign out already, so we are getting a Costco.
Nice. Paul Crowdis also had a fantastic comment about the Apple self-driving car project, is that the sensors look great. They just blend right in.
Yeah, it's pretty smooth.
Those
very aerodynamic.
I don't see them. Oh, wait, is it this on the roof? Oh, my goodness. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I did want to say a quick thanks to my Patreons who get early access bonus content and access to my 11-year prediction modeling, which is a lot of fun. And there's an update coming for that at the end of the month. And I've got another tracker I'm going to put in there as well, looking at the different gigafactories from around the world. I was asked by my viewers, you need to include another dozen cities on the list, and you need to rank them based on metrics like GDP, expected GDP growth, corruption index, actual. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a spreadsheet, man. I'm in. So that's kind of fun. Yeah.
All right. So since we're about to wind it up, I want to thank everyone from my channel for being here. Don't forget to give Brian a subscribe at some point so that he doesn't go to bed crying again tonight. Also, we are doing a live stream tomorrow of the Lucid factory flyover, and I will hopefully join Brian on his live stream of the Tesla earnings, which
yeah.
I'm pretty excited for because I want to hear what's going to be coming out of Texas, and I also have Tesla stock, so I care.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And so if you get a chance, guys, you got to join us next week for the simulcast of Fast Charging with B&B. And also, Barry, you've got a live stream coming up Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
I just said
it. Off in my own.
Lucy.
Sorry, dear, I was
Lucy,
miles
live stream.
away.
That's okay. That happens to me also, and I just nod my. Yeah, and our next live stream after that would be Monday again up the Nikola site. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. Lily Mae, good night. It's good to see you here. And Brian, you got any? Are you frozen?
I'm frozen. I'm frozen. I'm totally frozen. I'm just really glad. I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be hanging out with you in the actual live space again. I'm happy for all you guys who tuned in. Got like 120-ish concurrence at one point. That's fantastic. Super excited. It's a big year. Let's make 2022 not suck.
Yeah, it's up to me. So
you.
I will make it not suck. I'm going to let you know tomorrow what my decision is on 2022 not sucking.
All right.
So I'll get back to everyone on that.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for hanging out.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.